Hey everyone, I never thought I'd find myself here, but I guess life's got a twisted sense of humor sometimes. My name's Jake, and I've been married to Emily for 7 years. We don't have kids, which I guess is a small blessing in this mess. I'm here because my world came crashing down a few weeks ago, and I need to get this off my chest. To give you some background, Emily and I met in college. She was this vibrant, outgoing girl who seemed to light up every room she walked into. I was the quieter type, more into books and my small circle of friends. But somehow we clicked. Our relationship was solid, or so I thought. We both had decent jobs, a comfortable home, and a pretty active social life. Things seemed perfect on the surface. About 6 months ago, I started noticing subtle changes in Emily's behavior. She was always busy, even on weekends. Her phone, once casually left lying around, was now glued to her hand or stuffed in her purse. She became more secretive, often stepping out of the room to take calls. When I asked her about it, she'd brush it off, saying it was just work stress or her mom needing to chat. Then there were the lunch breaks. Emily worked downtown, and she started talking about this new restaurant she loved. She'd rave about the food and the amazing service, which, looking back, makes me want to punch a wall. She began going there almost every day, sometimes with colleagues, but often alone, she claimed. I didn't think much of it at first. Hell, I was happy she found a place she enjoyed. But then she started coming home later and later. Her excuses were always flimsy. I got caught up in a meeting or traffic was terrible. There were times she didn't come home until late at night, with some bullshit story about a last-minute dinner with clients. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't suspicious, but I pushed those thoughts away, telling myself she would never do something like that. It all started to make sense when I accidentally found a receipt from that damn restaurant while cleaning the car. It wasn't the first time I'd seen one, but this one had a handwritten note on the back. Can't wait to see you again. Josh. My heart dropped. Who the hell was Josh? I confronted Emily that night, my mind racing with worst-case scenarios. She laughed it off, said Josh was just a friendly waiter who flirted with all his customers. He's harmless, she said. I wanted to believe her, so I did. I felt like an idiot now. The final straw came when I got a call from an unknown number one evening. The voice on the other end was shaky, almost apologetic. It was Josh, the waiter. He sounded young, maybe mid-20s, and clearly uncomfortable. Is this Jake? He asked. Yeah, who's this? I replied, already feeling a sense of dread. My name's Josh. I work at the restaurant where your wife, Emily, comes for lunch. I need to tell you something. The next words out of his mouth shattered my world. He told me about their affair, how it started with innocent flirting, how Emily had told him she was single, how they'd been seeing each other for 6 months. He only found out she was married when he saw our wedding photo on her phone by accident. He said he couldn't live with the guilt and had to tell me. I hung up the phone and sat there in stunned silence. My mind was a whirlwind of anger, betrayal, and heartbreak. I didn't know what to do, but I knew one thing for sure. I was done with Emily. There was no coming back from this. The confrontation was a blur. I remember screaming, accusing her of lying and cheating. Emily tried to deny it at first, then shifted to crying and begging for forgiveness when she realized I knew everything. But I was beyond caring. I told her to pack her things and get out. This was my story, and it was only the beginning of the nightmare. That night was like something out of a bad dream. I could hardly believe what was happening. And yet there she was. My wife. The woman I thought I knew better than anyone, standing in front of me with tears streaming down her face. It was hard to believe that those tears could have come from her eyes when they had been so full of lies. After Josh's call, I sat in our living room, seething. I couldn't sit still. I paced back and forth, trying to make sense of it all, but there was no making sense of this betrayal. Every time I thought about Emily with him, it felt like a knife twisting in my gut. How could she do this to me? To us? I heard her car pull into the driveway and I braced myself. She walked in with a cheery, "Hey, honey," like it was any other night. Seeing her so carefree made my blood boil. I clenched my fists and took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "Emily, we need to talk." She looked at me, probably noticing the fury in my eyes for the first time. "What's wrong, Jake?" I didn't even know where to begin. "I got a call today, from Josh, you know, the waiter at your favorite restaurant." Her face went pale and she took a step back. I don't know what you're talking about," I laughed, but it was bitter and harsh. "Cut the crap, Emily. He told me everything. 6 months? 6 fucking months you've been screwing around behind my back." Emily started to cry, but her tears only fueled my anger. Jake, please, it's not what you think. It was a mistake. I never meant for it to happen. A mistake? A mistake is forgetting our anniversary, not having a 6-month-long affair with some waiter, I shouted, feeling my hands tremble with rage. She kept sobbing, trying to reach out to me, but I shoved her hand away. Don't touch me, just don't. I couldn't look at her without feeling a surge of disgust. Why, Emily? Why did you do it? I don't know, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I was lonely. You were always busy with work, and I felt neglected. Josh, he made me feel special. Neglected? That's bullshit, and you know it. I've been here, Emily. I've always been here. My voice cracked, and I hated that I was letting her see how much she'd hurt me. She just kept crying, saying she was sorry, that she'd do anything to make it right. But it was too late. There was no fixing this. I couldn't even look at her without wanting to scream. You need to leave, I said, my voice cold and final. Pack your things and get out. Jake, please, let's talk about this. We can work through it, she pleaded. But I was done. Get out, Emily. Now. She finally realized I meant it. She started packing a bag, still sobbing, still begging for forgiveness. I just stood there watching her, feeling numb. How had it come to this? How had the woman I loved turned into a stranger, someone I couldn't trust? When she finally left, the house felt empty. I sat down on the couch, staring at the walls, the photos of us, the life we'd built together. It all felt like a lie. The memories we shared were now tainted, every happy moment overshadowed by her betrayal. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat there, replaying every moment in my mind, trying to understand how I missed the signs. How I let myself be so blind. Anger and sadness washed over me in waves, and I felt like I was drowning in my own emotions. It was the longest night of my life, and I knew it was just the beginning. The reality of what happened was sinking in, and I wasn't sure how I'd ever move past this. But one thing was certain. I was done with Emily. There was no going back. The next morning, the house was eerily quiet. It felt like a tomb, filled with memories of a life that now seemed distant and false. I was still numb from the night before, but reality started to seep in, bringing with it a flood of emotions. Anger, sadness, disbelief, and betrayal all swirled inside me, fighting for dominance. I had called in sick to work, unable to face anyone or anything. I spent most of the day sitting on the couch, staring at nothing, trying to make sense of the chaos that my life had become. The thought of Emily's betrayal gnawed at me relentlessly. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her with Josh, laughing, touching, being intimate. It was like a never-ending nightmare. I tried to distract myself by doing mundane tasks, cleaning the house, organizing the garage, but nothing could drown out the pain. I kept expecting her to walk through the door, to tell me this was all some horrible misunderstanding. But she didn't. She was gone, and the silence was deafening. I reached out to a few close friends, hoping to find some solace. I told them everything, and their reactions ranged from shock to anger on my behalf. They offered their support, telling me I deserved better, that I was better off without her. But their words, though well-meaning, did little to ease the ache in my chest. As the days turned into weeks, I found myself on an emotional roller coaster. Some days, I felt a fierce determination to move on, to rebuild my life without Emily. Other days, the weight of her betrayal crushed me, leaving me feeling hopeless and broken. I couldn't escape the thoughts of what she'd done, and it consumed me. One evening, I found myself scrolling through old photos on my phone. There we were, smiling and happy, oblivious to the storm that was brewing. I couldn't help but wonder when it all started to go wrong. Was it something I did? Was I really that blind to her unhappiness? My mind was a maze of questions with no answers. I replayed every argument, every moment of distance, trying to pinpoint when she started to slip away. But it was futile. The past was a blur, and the present was a painful reminder of what I had lost. I tried to find some semblance of normalcy, but everything felt different now. I avoided the places we used to go together, the restaurants, the parks, even the grocery store. It was all too much, too soon. Everywhere I went, I was haunted by memories of us, and the realization that those memories were tainted. One night, in a fit of anger, I gathered everything that reminded me of Emily, the photos, the gifts, the little mementos of our life together, and threw them into a box. I couldn't bear to look at them anymore. I needed to purge her from my life. to rid myself of the constant reminders of her betrayal. I considered therapy, but the thought of pouring my heart out to a stranger was daunting. I didn't want to relive the pain over and over again. I just wanted it to go away, to be able to breathe without feeling like I was suffocating. The hardest part was the loneliness. The bed felt too big without her, the house too empty. I missed the sound of her laughter, the warmth of her presence. But every time I thought about reaching out to her, the anger surged back, reminding me of the hurt she had caused. My friends tried to get me out of the house, to distract me with outings and activities, but it was hard to enjoy anything. I felt like a shell of my former self, just going through the motions. The joy had been sucked out of my life, and I didn't know how to get it back. The pain was relentless, and I began to wonder if it would ever fade. Would I always feel this way? Would I ever be able to trust again? The future seemed bleak, and I struggled to find a way forward. But amidst the darkness, there were glimmers of hope. Small moments of clarity where I realized that I deserved better, that I was worthy of love and respect. It was a long and difficult journey, but I knew I had to keep moving forward, one step at a time. I wasn't sure what the future held, but one thing was clear. I was done with Emily. She had made her choice, and now I had to make mine. It was time to start rebuilding my life, brick by painful brick. The days following Emily's departure were some of the hardest I'd ever faced. My emotions were a storm that seemed never ending, but amidst the chaos, a sense of resolve began to take shape. I wasn't going to let her betrayal define me or my future. I needed to find closure, and part of that meant confronting Emily one last time, on my terms. I knew where Emily was staying, her friend Rachel's place. I hesitated at first, not wanting to stir up more drama, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed answers. I needed to look her in the eye and hear the truth from her lips. So I mustered up the courage and drove over to Rachel's. When I knocked on the door, it was Rachel who answered, her eyes widening in surprise when she saw me. "Jake, what are you doing here?" "I'm here to talk to Emily," I said firmly. "Is she here?" Rachel hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, she's here. Hold on." She disappeared into the house, and a few moments later, Emily appeared, looking like she'd aged years in just a few weeks. "Jake," she said, her voice trembling, "what are you doing here?" "I need to talk to you," I replied, my tone as steady as I could manage. "We need to settle this once and for all." Rachel stepped back to give us space, and Emily reluctantly invited me in. We sat down in the living room, the tension between us palpable. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my anger in check. "Why did you do it, Emily?" I asked, my voice cracking. "I need to know the truth." She looked down at her hands, tears welling up in her eyes. "I don't know, Jake. I was lonely. I felt like you didn't care anymore, like you were always too busy for me." "That's bullshit, and you know it," I snapped. "I was always there for you. I loved you. I trusted you. And you threw it all away for what? A fling with a waiter?" "It wasn't just a fling," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I thought I loved him. He made me feel special, like I mattered." "And what about now? Do you still think you love him?" I asked, my voice hardening. She shook her head. "No. When he found out I was married, he ended it. Said he couldn't be with someone who could lie so easily. I lost everything, Jake. Him, you, everything." Hearing her say that brought a twisted sense of satisfaction. At least she was suffering too. But it didn't make the pain any easier to bear. "You should have thought about that before you decided to cheat," I said coldly. We sat in silence for a few moments, the weight of her betrayal hanging heavily in the air. Finally, I spoke again. "I came here to tell you that I'm done. There's no fixing this, no going back. I want a divorce." Emily's face crumpled, and she began to sob. "Jake, please, don't do this. We can work through it. I'll do anything." I shook my head. "It's too late, Emily. You made your choice, and now I'm making mine. I can't live with this betrayal hanging over us. I need to move on, and so do you." She continued to cry, but I stood my ground. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done, but I knew it was the right decision. I couldn't keep living in the shadow of her lies. I got up to leave, but before I did, I turned back to her. "I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for, Emily, but it's not going to be with me." As I walked out the door, I felt a strange sense of relief. It wasn't happiness, far from it, but it was a step towards healing. I had taken control of my life again, and that was something. The drive home was a blur, my mind racing with thoughts of what lay ahead. There would be legal battles, paperwork, and more painful conversations, but I was ready to face them. I was ready to start rebuilding my life. The first thing I did when I got home was contact a lawyer. I wanted the divorce process to start as soon as possible. I needed to put this chapter behind me and focus on the future. It wasn't going to be easy, but I was determined to come out stronger on the other side. Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into the process. I made sure all our financials were in order, divided our assets, and started looking for a new place to live. Staying in our house, filled with memories of a happier time, was too painful. I needed a fresh start, a clean slate. I also began to lean more on my friends. They were my rock, supporting me through the darkest days and reminding me that I wasn't alone. Slowly, I started to find glimpses of hope and moments of peace. But the journey was far from over. There were still days when the pain felt unbearable, when I questioned everything and struggled to find my footing. Yet, with each passing day, I grew a little bit stronger. I was learning to live again, to find joy in the small things, and to rebuild a life that was truly my own. In the weeks that followed my decision to divorce Emily, I found myself in a whirlwind of emotions. There were moments when I felt an overwhelming sense of relief, like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. But there were also moments of intense loneliness and sadness when the reality of what had happened hit me like a ton of bricks. The divorce process was as grueling as I had anticipated. My lawyer, a no-nonsense woman named Karen, helped me navigate the legalities, but every step felt like a punch to the gut. Signing papers that dissolved a marriage I once cherished was harder than I had imagined. Yet each signature also felt like a step towards reclaiming my life. Throughout this time, my friends became my lifeline. Mike, my best friend since college, was a constant presence. He dragged me out of the house when I wanted to wallow, forced me to go to the gym with him, and introduced me to a support group for people going through divorces. At first, I was reluctant to join. The idea of sitting in a circle and spilling my guts to strangers didn't appeal to me. But Mike was persistent, and I finally caved in. The support group turned out to be a game changer. The first few sessions were tough. I felt exposed and vulnerable sharing my story. But hearing other people's experiences made me realize I wasn't alone in my pain. There were others who had been blindsided by betrayal, who had felt the same anger and heartbreak. Slowly, I started to open up, and with each meeting, I felt a little less broken. One evening, after a particularly emotional session, a woman named Lisa approached me. She had been attending the group for a few months, dealing with her own messy divorce. "Jake, right?" she said, offering a sympathetic smile. "I just wanted to say I know how hard it is, but it does get better, I promise." Her words struck a chord. We ended up talking for a while, sharing our stories and commiserating over our respective situations. Lisa had been married for 10 years before discovering her husband's infidelity. Her strength and resilience were inspiring, and our conversation gave me a sense of hope that I desperately needed. In addition to the support group, I started seeing a therapist. It was something I had resisted initially, thinking I could handle everything on my own. But the emotional toll was too great, and I needed professional help to navigate the complex feelings I was experiencing. Dr. Stevens was a calm, reassuring presence, and our sessions became a safe space for me to process my grief and anger. One breakthrough came when Dr. Stevens helped me understand that Emily's betrayal wasn't my fault. I had been blaming myself, wondering what I could have done differently to prevent it. But she made me see that her actions were a reflection of her own issues, not a result of my shortcomings. It was a painful realization, but it also brought a sense of clarity. Meanwhile, the legal proceedings continued. Emily tried reaching out a few times, but I kept my distance. Every interaction felt like reopening a wound, and I needed to protect myself. The final court date approached, and I braced myself for the inevitable confrontation. I knew it would be the last time I'd see her, and I had mixed feelings about it. The day of the hearing, I felt a mix of anxiety and determination. I arrived at the courthouse early, taking a moment to steady my nerves. Emily was already there, looking fragile and remorseful. As we entered the courtroom, I focused on staying composed, on not letting my emotions get the best of me. The hearing was brief, a formality to finalize the divorce. When it was over, Emily approached me one last time. "Jake, I'm so sorry," she said, her voice trembling. "I never meant to hurt you." I looked at her, feeling a pang of sadness, but also a sense of resolve. I know, I replied. But you did, and now we both have to move on. As I walked out of the courthouse, I felt a sense of finality. It was over. The chapter of my life with Emily was closed, and a new one was beginning. It wasn't going to be easy, but for the first time in a long while, I felt a glimmer of hope. I threw myself into rebuilding my life. I found a new apartment, a cozy place that felt like a fresh start. I redecorated it to reflect my own tastes, filling it with things that brought me joy. It was a small but significant step towards creating a new normal. Work became a refuge as well. I started taking on more challenging projects, immersing myself in tasks that demanded my full attention. My colleagues noticed a change in me, and their support was invaluable. They knew about the divorce, and their understanding made the long hours more bearable. Mike continued to be a constant presence, and our friendship grew even stronger. He introduced me to new hobbies, like hiking and cooking, which became outlets for my stress and frustration. On weekends, we'd hit the trails or experiment with new recipes, and those moments of camaraderie helped me heal. The support group remained a cornerstone of my recovery. Each week, I'd share my progress and setbacks, finding solace in the understanding nods and encouraging words of my fellow members. Lisa and I became close friends, often meeting up outside of the group to catch up and support each other. Through therapy, I learned to let go of the anger and resentment. It wasn't easy, and there were days when the pain felt unbearable. But Dr. Stevens helped me see the importance of forgiveness, not for Emily's sake, but for my own peace of mind. Letting go of the bitterness allowed me to focus on my own healing and growth. As the months passed, the wounds began to scab over. The ache in my chest started to fade, replaced by a cautious optimism. I wasn't fully healed, and I knew there would be more tough days ahead, but I was moving forward. I was learning to live again, to find joy in the little things, and to rebuild a life that was truly my own. I had been through hell and back, but I had survived. I had faced the betrayal head-on, found strength in my darkest moments, and discovered a resilience I never knew I had. The journey was far from over, but I was ready to take it one step at a time. And for the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful about the future. With the divorce finalized and a new apartment to call home, I began to embrace the concept of a new normal. It wasn't an overnight transformation, but rather a gradual process of reclaiming my life, one piece at a time. I spent a lot of time reflecting on what I wanted and who I wanted to become in the aftermath of the betrayal. One of the first things I did was redecorate my new apartment. I wanted it to be a place of comfort and renewal, a space that reflected my personality and tastes, free from any lingering memories of my past with Emily. I chose warm, inviting colors, filled the rooms with plants, and hung up art that inspired me. The process was therapeutic, a physical manifestation of the changes I was making internally. My friends continued to be a source of unwavering support. Mike, in particular, made it his mission to keep me engaged and active. He convinced me to join a local hiking club, and we spent many weekends exploring nearby trails. The physical exertion and the beauty of nature provided a much-needed escape from my thoughts. Each hike was a reminder of the world beyond my pain, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Work also became a significant part of my healing process. I threw myself into my projects, taking on new challenges and responsibilities. My colleagues noticed the change in me and were incredibly supportive, often inviting me out for drinks or dinners after work. These social outings, while initially daunting, became an integral part of rebuilding my social life and confidence. Despite the progress I was making, there were still difficult days. There were moments when the loneliness would creep in, when the memories of happier times with Emily would surface unbidden. On those days, I leaned heavily on the skills I had learned in therapy. Dr. Stevens had equipped me with tools to manage my emotions, to acknowledge the pain without letting it consume me. It was a constant effort, but each small victory felt significant. The support group remained a cornerstone of my recovery. The shared experiences and mutual understanding created a sense of camaraderie that was invaluable. Lisa and I grew closer, and our friendship blossomed into something special. We spent a lot of time together, often meeting for coffee or dinner, sharing our progress and setbacks. Her strength and resilience inspired me, and our conversations provided a safe space to express my feelings. One evening, after a particularly uplifting support group meeting, Lisa and I decided to grab a drink at a nearby bar. We found a quiet corner and talked for hours, reflecting on our journeys and the lessons we had learned. "Jake," she said, taking a sip of her wine, "you've come a long way. I can see the change in you. You're stronger than you realize." I smiled, feeling a warmth spread through me. "Thanks, Lisa. I couldn't have done it without you and the group. You've been a huge part of my healing." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "And you've been a huge part of mine. We're in this together." As the weeks turned into months, I continued to build a life that felt authentic and fulfilling. I started volunteering at a local animal shelter, something I had always wanted to do but never found the time for. Working with the animals brought a sense of joy and purpose that was incredibly healing. Their unconditional love and trust reminded me of the simple, good things in life. I also rekindled old hobbies that I had neglected over the years. I picked up my guitar again, spending evenings strumming away and rediscovering my love for music. I started reading more, losing myself in stories that transported me to different worlds. These activities were more than just distractions. They were ways of reconnecting with myself and finding solace in the things I loved. One day, while browsing a local bookstore, I stumbled upon a book on mindfulness and meditation. Intrigued, I decided to give it a try. Incorporating mindfulness into my daily routine had a profound impact on my mental well-being. It helped me stay grounded, to appreciate the present moment, and to let go of the past. Through all these changes, I learned the importance of self-care and self-compassion. I allowed myself to feel the pain and the sadness without judgment, understanding that healing was not a linear process. There were setbacks, but I approached them with kindness and patience. As time went on, I found myself smiling more, laughing more, and genuinely enjoying life again. The pain of Emily's betrayal had not disappeared, but it had transformed. It became a part of my story, a testament to my strength and resilience. I no longer felt defined by the hurt. Instead, I was defined by my ability to overcome it. One sunny Saturday morning, I found myself at a local farmer's market, a place Emily and I used to frequent together. I had avoided it for a long time, but that day, I felt ready. As I walked through the stalls, the vibrant colors and lively atmosphere filled me with a sense of peace. I realized how far I had come, how much I had grown. I stopped at a stand selling homemade candles and struck up a conversation with the vendor, a friendly older woman named Martha. She recommended a lavender-scented candle, saying it was perfect for relaxation. I bought it and continued browsing, feeling a lightness in my step. Later that evening, I lit the candle and sat on my balcony watching the sunset. The soft scent of lavender filled the air, and I felt a profound sense of contentment. I had faced the storm and emerged stronger. I had found a new normal, one that was filled with hope, growth, and self-love. The journey was far from over, but I was ready for whatever came next. I had learned that life could be unpredictable and painful, but it could also be beautiful and full of possibilities. And for the first time in a long while, I was excited about the future. As the months rolled by, the sense of rebuilding my life grew stronger. My new apartment started to feel more like home, a reflection of my journey towards healing and self-discovery. The lingering ache from Emily's betrayal had dulled, and in its place, a new sense of confidence began to emerge. I was not just surviving, I was thriving in ways I hadn't expected. One day at the support group, I shared an update about my progress. "I've been volunteering at the animal shelter, playing guitar again, and I even started meditating," I said, smiling at the group. "I feel like I'm finding myself again." The group responded with encouraging nods and smiles. Lisa, who had become one of my closest friends, gave me a thumbs up. "That's amazing, Jake. It's inspiring to see how far you've come." After the meeting, Lisa and I decided to grab dinner at a nearby cafe. We chatted about our week and the small victories we were each experiencing. Over time, our conversations had shifted from the pain of our pasts to the possibilities of our futures. "Have you thought about dating again?" Lisa asked, her eyes twinkling with curiosity. I hesitated, taking a sip of my coffee. "I've thought about it, but I'm not sure if I'm ready. It's hard to imagine trusting someone again after everything that happened with Emily." Lisa nodded. "I get it. Trusting again is tough. But you've come a long way, and you deserve to find happiness. Maybe start slow, just putting yourself out there a bit." Her words stayed with me. The idea of dating was daunting, but the thought of finding someone who could appreciate the person I had become was appealing. It was time to take another step forward. A few weeks later, with encouragement from Lisa and Mike, I decided to dip my toes into the world of online dating. Creating a profile felt strange and a bit awkward, but I tried to focus on presenting my authentic self. I included photos from my hikes, playing guitar, and volunteering at the shelter. I wanted to attract someone who shared similar interests and values. The first few dates were nerve-wracking, to say the least. I met a few nice women, but there was no real spark. Still, it felt good to be putting myself out there, to be engaging with new people. Each date was a reminder that I was capable of moving forward, of opening my heart again. Then I met Sarah. She was smart, funny, and had a warmth about her that put me at ease immediately. Our first date was at a local art gallery, and we spent hours talking about everything from our favorite books to our travel dreams. There was a connection, a genuine chemistry that I hadn't felt in a long time. Over the next few weeks, Sarah and I continued to see each other. We went hiking, cooked dinner together, and even volunteered at the animal shelter. With each date, my feelings for her grew, and I began to see the possibility of a future together. But I was also cautious, mindful of the scars from my past. One evening, after a particularly wonderful day spent together, Sarah and I sat on my balcony, watching the sunset. She turned to me, her eyes serious. "Jake, I really like you. But I need to know, are you ready for this? For us?" Her question hung in the air, and I took a moment to collect my thoughts. "Sarah, I really like you too, and I want to be ready. But I need to be honest with you. I've been through a lot, and trust doesn't come easily to me anymore. I'm working on it, though, every day." She reached out and took my hand. "I appreciate your honesty. I want to take this one step at a time, together. We don't have to rush anything. Just know that I'm here for you, whatever you need." Her words brought a sense of relief and hope. I wasn't alone in this journey. I had found someone who understood and was willing to be patient. It was a new beginning, and I was ready to embrace it. As my relationship with Sarah blossomed, I continued to focus on my own growth and healing. Therapy remained a constant, helping me navigate the complexities of my emotions. Dr. Stevens and I discussed my fears and hopes, and she guided me towards building a healthy relationship based on trust and communication. I also maintained my connections with the support group and my friends. They were my foundation, the people who had seen me through my darkest times and celebrated my victories. Lisa, in particular, remained a close confidant. We continued to support each other, our friendship a testament to the strength found in shared experiences. Life was far from perfect, but it was rich with possibility. I had learned to find joy in the small moments, a good book, a beautiful hike, a quiet evening with Sarah. I was no longer defined by the pain of my past, but by the strength I had found within myself. One sunny Saturday, Sarah and I decided to visit a nearby town for a day trip. We wandered through the streets, exploring quaint shops and enjoying the local cuisine. As we sat in a charming cafe, sipping coffee and sharing a slice of pie, I felt a sense of peace and happiness that had eluded me for so long. "Jake," Sarah said, looking at me with a smile, "I'm really glad we met. I feel like we're building something special." I smiled back, my heart full. "Me too, Sarah, me too." As we drove back home, the sun setting in the rearview mirror, I reflected on how far I had come. The journey from betrayal and heartbreak to healing and new beginnings had been arduous, but it had also been transformative. I had discovered a resilience within myself that I never knew existed, and I had found new paths to happiness. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, I felt ready to face it. I had rebuilt my life, piece by piece, and in doing so, I had discovered the person I was always meant to be. The pain of the past would always be a part of me, but it no longer defined me. I was Jake, a man who had faced his worst fears and emerged stronger, ready to embrace whatever came next. And as I held Sarah's hand, feeling the warmth of her presence, I knew that I was exactly where I was meant to be. My relationship with Sarah continued to deepen, and with each passing day, I found myself more grateful for her presence in my life. We built a foundation of trust and mutual respect, and while the scars of my past still lingered, they no longer held me back. Instead, they served as reminders of my strength and resilience. However, it wasn't all smooth sailing. As our relationship progressed, we encountered challenges that tested us both. One evening, after a particularly stressful day at work, I found myself snapping at Sarah over something trivial. It was a stark reminder that the wounds from my past were still healing, and that I had to be mindful of not letting them affect my present. "I'm sorry, Sarah," I said, taking a deep breath. "I shouldn't have taken my frustration out on you." She looked at me with understanding eyes. It's okay, Jake. We all have bad days. But let's talk about it. Communication is key, remember? Her patience and willingness to talk things through were invaluable. We sat down and discussed our feelings openly, which helped us navigate the rough patches and grow stronger as a couple. Around this time, Emily tried to contact me again. She sent a long, apologetic email expressing regret for her actions and hoping we could at least be friends. Reading her words stirred up old emotions, but I knew that responding would only open old wounds. I discussed it with Sarah and my therapist, both of whom supported my decision to ignore the email. I had moved on from that chapter of my life, and revisiting it would do more harm than good. It was a moment of reaffirmation, a recognition of how far I had come, and how much I valued the life I was building with Sarah. Work continued to be a significant part of my healing journey. I took on new projects and responsibilities, finding fulfillment and a renewed sense of purpose. My colleagues noticed the change in me and often commented on how much happier and more engaged I seemed. It was a testament to the power of resilience and the importance of finding balance and meaning in life. As Sarah and I grew closer, we started discussing our future together. It was exciting, but also nerve-wracking. One evening, while cooking dinner together, she brought up the topic of moving in. Jake, I know it's a big step, but I think we're ready. What do you think about us moving in together? She asked, her eyes full of hope and love. I paused, considering her words. The idea of sharing my space with someone again was daunting, but I knew that Sarah was different. Our relationship was built on a foundation of trust and mutual respect, and I felt ready to take that next step. I think it's a great idea, I said, smiling. Let's do it. The process of moving in together was both exhilarating and challenging. We spent weekends packing, moving furniture, and figuring out how to merge our lives seamlessly. There were moments of stress, like when we disagreed on how to arrange the living room or which dishes to keep. But we navigated these challenges with patience and compromise. One evening, after a long day of unpacking, we sat on the couch, surrounded by boxes. Sarah leaned her head on my shoulder and sighed contentedly. This feels right, Jake. I'm so happy we're doing this. Me too, Sarah, I replied, feeling a sense of peace and fulfillment. It's the start of a new chapter. Living together brought us even closer. We developed routines and rituals that strengthened our bond: morning coffee on the balcony, cooking dinner together, and nightly walks around the neighborhood. Each day I felt more connected to Sarah and more confident in our future. However, blending our lives also meant facing deeper conversations about our pasts and our hopes for the future. One night, while watching a movie, Sarah turned to me with a serious expression. Jake, there's something I've been meaning to talk to you about, she said, pausing the movie. It's about trust. I know you've been hurt before, and I want to make sure we're building a foundation of complete honesty and openness. I nodded, appreciating her willingness to address such an important topic. I agree, Sarah. Trust is crucial, and I want us to be completely honest with each other. We spent hours talking that night, sharing our fears, insecurities, and dreams. It was a vulnerable and emotional conversation, but it brought us even closer. I realized that true intimacy required not just physical closeness, but also emotional transparency. As our relationship continued to evolve, I found myself growing in ways I hadn't anticipated. I became more self-aware, more in tune with my emotions, and more open to vulnerability. Sarah's unwavering support and love were instrumental in this growth, and I was deeply grateful for her presence in my life. One weekend, we decided to take a trip to the mountains for a little getaway. It was a chance to relax, unwind, and enjoy each other's company without the distractions of everyday life. We hiked, explored small towns, and spent evenings by the fireplace talking about everything and nothing. On the last night of our trip, as we sat by the fire, Sarah turned to me with a thoughtful expression. Jake, I love you. And I know we've both been through a lot, but I believe in us. I believe we can build a beautiful future together. Her words touched me deeply. I took her hand and looked into her eyes. I love you too, Sarah. And I believe in us as well. We've come so far, and I can't wait to see where our journey takes us. As we sat there, surrounded by the warmth of the fire and the beauty of the mountains, I felt a profound sense of contentment and hope. The journey from betrayal and heartbreak had been long and arduous, but it had also been transformative. I had discovered a resilience within myself and had found a love that was deep and true. Life was unpredictable, and challenges would undoubtedly arise, but I was ready to face them with Sarah by my side. Our love was a testament to the strength found in vulnerability and the power of resilience. Together, we would continue to grow, to learn, and to build a future filled with love, trust, and endless possibilities. Returning from our mountain getaway, Sarah and I settled into our routine. Life was good, but it wasn't without its challenges. Living together brought out differences and disagreements that we hadn't anticipated. Our first major argument was about finances. I had always been frugal, carefully budgeting every dollar. Sarah, on the other hand, enjoyed spending on experiences and was more impulsive with money. One evening, she came home with tickets for an expensive concert, which she had bought without consulting me. "Jake, you'll love this band. I got us tickets," she said, excitedly waving the tickets in front of me. I looked at them, my stomach tightening. "Sarah, these are expensive. We should have talked about it first." Her face fell. "I thought you'd be happy. It's something fun for us to do together." "It's not that I don't appreciate it," I sighed. "It's just, we're trying to save, and we need to be careful with our spending." She nodded, but I could see the disappointment in her eyes. "I understand. I'll be more mindful next time." We talked it through, setting clearer financial boundaries and agreeing to discuss big purchases before making them. It was a learning experience, but it reinforced the importance of communication and compromise. As time passed, we faced other challenges too. Balancing our work schedules, maintaining our individual interests, and managing household chores required constant effort and negotiation. But each challenge we overcame made our relationship stronger. One particular challenge came in the form of my lingering trust issues. Despite Sarah's unwavering support, there were moments when doubts and insecurities crept in. One evening, I saw her laughing at a text from a male colleague. Jealousy flared up, and I found myself questioning her loyalty, even though I knew it was unfair. "Who's texting you?" I asked, unable to hide the edge in my voice. Sarah looked up, surprised by my tone. "It's just Dave from work. He sent a funny meme." I nodded, trying to push down the irrational jealousy. "Sorry, sometimes I still get anxious." She put her phone down and took my hand. "Jake, I understand. It's not easy to move past what happened with Emily, but I promise you, I'm here for you, always." Her reassurance helped, but I knew I had to work on my insecurities. I continued my therapy sessions with Dr. Stevens, focusing on building trust and letting go of past hurts. It was a slow process, but each step forward felt like a victory. Despite these challenges, there were many triumphs. We celebrated our first anniversary together with a trip to the beach, where we spent lazy days soaking up the sun and enjoying each other's company. We also adopted a dog, a playful Labrador named Max, who brought even more joy and laughter into our home. Max quickly became a beloved member of our little family. His boundless energy and unconditional love were infectious, and taking care of him brought Sarah and me closer together. We took him on hikes, played fetch in the park, and snuggled with him on the couch during movie nights. Work continued to be fulfilling for both of us. Sarah got a promotion, and I took on a leadership role in a new project. We supported each other's careers, celebrating successes and providing comfort during stressful times. Our shared dedication to our professional growth was another bond that strengthened our relationship. One day, Sarah came home with exciting news. "Jake, my company is sending me to a conference in San Francisco next month. I think it would be a great opportunity for us to take a mini vacation afterward. What do you think?" The idea of a getaway sounded wonderful. "That sounds great, Sarah. We could explore the city together. I'll see if I can take some time off." Planning the trip brought us even closer. We researched places to visit, restaurants to try, and activities to do. It felt good to have something to look forward to, a break from our routine and a chance to create new memories. The conference went smoothly, and I joined Sarah in San Francisco afterward. We spent a week exploring the city's vibrant neighborhoods, visiting museums, and indulging in delicious food. One evening, as we walked hand in hand along the Golden Gate Bridge, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. "Sarah, this trip has been amazing," I said, pulling her close. "I'm so glad we're doing this together." "Me too, Jake," she replied, smiling up at me. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" "We have," I agreed, feeling a deep sense of contentment. "And I'm excited for whatever comes next." Our time in San Francisco was a reminder of the importance of taking breaks and enjoying life. It reinvigorated our relationship and strengthened our bond. When we returned home, we felt more connected than ever, ready to face whatever challenges came our way. As the seasons changed, we continued to grow together. We started new hobbies, like cooking classes and painting, which added a new dimension to our relationship. These shared experiences brought laughter and joy, reinforcing our commitment to each other. One Saturday morning, as we prepared breakfast together, Sarah turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Jake, I've been thinking. What do you think about the idea of starting a family someday?" The question took me by surprise, but it also filled me with warmth. The thought of building a future with Sarah, of raising children together, was something I had started to envision. "I think it's a wonderful idea," I said, smiling. "But let's take it one step at a time. We're still building our life together, and I want to make sure we're ready when the time comes." She nodded, a smile spreading across her face. "I agree. It's something to look forward to, but no rush. We have plenty of time." Our conversation about the future brought us even closer, reaffirming our commitment to each other and our shared dreams. It was a reminder that despite the challenges, we were building something beautiful together. One evening, as we sat on the balcony, watching the sunset, I reflected on our journey. From the depths of betrayal and heartbreak to the heights of new love and hope, it had been a transformative experience. I had learned the power of resilience, the importance of trust, and the beauty of vulnerability. Sarah had been my rock, my partner in every sense of the word. Together, we had faced our fears, embraced our challenges, and celebrated our triumphs. The future was uncertain, but I knew that with her by my side, we could face anything. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I turned to Sarah, feeling a deep sense of gratitude and love. "Thank you for being with me on this journey, Sarah. I love you more than words can express." She smiled, her eyes sparkling with emotion. "I love you too, Jake. And I'm so grateful for you. Here's to many more adventures together." As we clinked our glasses, I felt a profound sense of peace and fulfillment. The journey from betrayal to healing had been long and difficult, but it had also been incredibly rewarding. I had discovered the strength within myself and found a love that was true and enduring. And as I held Sarah close, I knew that the best was yet to come. Together, we would continue to build a life filled with love, trust, and endless possibilities. The following months were a blend of quiet contentment and exciting new beginnings. Sarah and I continued to nurture our relationship, balancing our careers, personal interests, and time together. We grew even more comfortable in our shared routines and found joy in the little things: Sunday brunches, evening strolls with Max, and cozy nights in watching movies. One Saturday morning, we decided to visit a local farmer's market. It was a bustling scene filled with vibrant colors, fresh produce, and the comforting hum of community life. As we wandered through the stalls, picking out fruits and vegetables, I felt a profound sense of peace. This was the life I had always wanted: simple, fulfilling, and full of love. Sarah held up a bunch of sunflowers. "These will look perfect on our dining table," she said with a smile. I nodded, agreeing. "They'll brighten up the room for sure. Let's get them." We returned home with our treasures, spent the afternoon cooking a delicious meal together, and enjoyed it on the patio. It was one of those perfect days where everything felt right. As we talked and laughed, I realized how much I cherished these moments and how deeply I had fallen in love with Sarah. As autumn approached, we began planning a trip to visit my parents. They lived in a small town a few hours away, and it had been a while since I'd seen them. I was excited for them to meet Sarah properly and to share our happiness with them. The visit was a huge success. My parents adored Sarah, and it was heartwarming to see her bond with them. We spent a weekend reminiscing about old times, exploring the town, and enjoying home-cooked meals. My parents' approval and support meant the world to me, and it solidified my feelings for Sarah even more. One evening, after a delightful dinner, my mom pulled me aside. "Jake, she's a wonderful woman. I'm so happy for you," she said, her eyes filled with warmth. "Thanks, Mom," I replied, feeling a lump in my throat. "She's really special. I feel like I've found my person." Back home, the holidays approached, bringing with them a sense of festivity and togetherness. Sarah and I decorated our apartment, filling it with twinkling lights, a beautifully adorned tree, and the scent of freshly baked cookies. It was our first holiday season together, and we wanted to make it memorable. On Christmas Eve, we hosted a small gathering with close friends, including Mike and Lisa. The evening was filled with laughter, music, and the joy of being surrounded by people we loved. As we exchanged gifts, I realized how far I had come from the pain of the past and how much I valued the new life I was building. Later that night, after everyone had left and the apartment was quiet, Sarah and I sat by the fire, sipping hot cocoa. She looked at me with a tender expression. "Jake, this has been the best Christmas I've had in years. Thank you for making it so special." I took her hand, feeling a rush of affection. "It's special because of you, Sarah. I can't imagine my life without you." She smiled, her eyes shining. "I feel the same way. I love you, Jake." "I love you too," I replied, my heart full, more than words can say. As the new year began, I found myself reflecting on the journey that had brought me here. From the depths of betrayal and heartbreak to the heights of love and happiness, it had been a transformative experience. I'd grown in ways I never thought possible, and had discovered a strength within myself that I didn't know existed. One evening, as Sarah and I sat together, planning our goals for the year, she brought up an idea that had been on her mind. "Jake, I've been thinking about us and our future. I know we talked about starting a family someday, but what if we took another step first?" I looked at her curious. "What do you have in mind?" "How about we get married?" she said, her voice soft but steady. Her words took my breath away. It was a step I had been thinking about too, but hearing her say it filled me with a mixture of excitement and love. "Sarah, I can't think of anything I want more. Let's do it." We spent the next few months planning our wedding. We decided on a small, intimate ceremony with just our closest friends and family. It was a reflection of our journey, personal, meaningful, and filled with love. The day of our wedding was perfect. The weather was beautiful, the setting idyllic, and the atmosphere filled with joy. As Sarah walked down the aisle, looking stunning in her dress, I felt a rush of emotions. This was the beginning of a new chapter, one that I was ready to embrace with all my heart. Our vows were a testament to our journey, acknowledging the past while celebrating the future. "Sarah, you've brought light into my life when I needed it the most. I promise to love you, support you, and stand by you through all the ups and downs. You are my rock, my partner, and my best friend." Tears filled her eyes as she replied, "Jake, you are my heart, my strength, and my joy. I promise to cherish you, to grow with you, and to build a life full of love and laughter. Together, we can face anything." As we exchanged rings and sealed our vows with a kiss, I felt an overwhelming sense of happiness and fulfillment. This was the beginning of a beautiful journey, one that I was excited to share with Sarah. Our honeymoon was a dream come true. We traveled to Europe, exploring romantic cities, picturesque landscapes, and creating memories that we would cherish forever. Each moment was a reminder of the love we had found and the future we were building together. Returning home, we settled into our married life with a sense of excitement and contentment. We continued to support each other, celebrate our successes, and navigate challenges with patience and understanding. Our bond grew stronger with each passing day, a testament to the love and commitment we had for each other. As the years went by, we faced life's ups and downs together. We celebrated milestones, weathered storms, and embraced the joys and sorrows that came our way. Through it all, our love remained steadfast, a source of strength and comfort. One sunny afternoon, as we sat on our porch, watching Max play in the yard, Sarah turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Jake, I've been thinking about something." I looked at her, curious. "What is it?" "How about we start that family we talked about?" she said, a smile spreading across her face. Her words filled me with joy. "I think it's a wonderful idea, Sarah. I can't wait to see what the future holds for us." And so our journey continued, filled with love, hope, and endless possibilities. From the depths of betrayal and heartbreak, I had found my way to a place of peace and happiness. With Sarah by my side, I knew that the future was bright, and that together, we could face anything. As I looked at the woman who had become my rock, my partner, and my best friend, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Life had taken me on a difficult path, but it had led me to a place of love and fulfillment. And for that, I was eternally grateful. That's it, and thank you for your attention. Subscribe to the channel and share your impressions in the comments.